Hello and welcome to Spotlight North Carolina Cooperative Extension. North Carolina Cooperative Extension is comprised of two land-grant universities, NC State University and NCA&T State University. There are North Carolina Cooperative Extensions in all 100 counties and the koala boundaries. Now I'm your host Rebekah Benton, and today we are going to do an FNIP segment. Today I have joining me Meleah Evers, our FCS agent.
Thank you. Glad to be with you today.
And many of you may or may not know, but I have been an FNIP educator for many years, so this is part of what I've done my entire career. So we are going to talk a little bit about Build a Salad. So just want to talk a little bit about what I do particularly and what FNIP does in the county that I work with. I work with youth in particularly, so I go into the schools and I teach nutrition education. For summer programs, we do food preps, we do cooking camps, all kinds of stuff, so we can have a lot of good time. But today we want to introduce a recipe. It's getting summertime, so the recipe that we're going to look at is building a salad, because it's always good to try to get those extra fruits and vegetables into your diets. So as always, you probably know, with FNIP we want to make sure that our hands are clean before we start anything. And I just want to talk a little bit about what I have here. So, and the safety of it. When you go looking at vegetables, you want to make sure that you do what first? Do you remember, Meleah? I know you do. Not looking at them, but before you prepare them.
Oh, if they're not washed already, you do want to wash your fruits and vegetables to make sure that they have the soil off of them, especially before you cut anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I brought this tool right here. Now this is one of, I think this is actually from Steps to Health, one of our other programs, but this is like a vegetable brush and a peeler. Yes. So it's a multi-tool that you can use, but one thing that you can absolutely use these on are cucumbers. Another item that you could use them on, potatoes, any kind of hearty vegetable that you wouldn't tear or rip the skin on. Now I'm kind of a weirdo, and I don't know about you, but like sometimes when I bought lettuce, it says already washed.
Yes.
But I went ahead and washed it again.
Oh, you're not supposed to wash it again.
Really?
Really, because actually what
Tell me about that.
can do is when it's already pre-washed, when you wash it, you could actually contaminate it further, so you shouldn't wash it. But if you buy the kind that you do have to wash, it's really good to make sure that you dry it really well, because when you make your salad dressing, the salad dressing won't stick to it as well if it's still damp or wet.
Okay.
And it'll all
well,
sit down at the
I have
bottom.
to say the spinach said that it was pre-washed, but I did re-rinse it.
Okay.
I didn't put it in like a wash or soak or anything. I did pre-rinse it. Okay. And then this lettuce, this is romaine lettuce that I got. This lettuce did say you needed to wash it, and so I tore it apart, washed the leaves, and dried them and refrigerated them. So they may be a little damp for salad dressing particularly, but it's all washed.
Oh yeah, okay.
So other things I got carrots, and I went ahead and pre-measured everything too. So our recipe, we'll talk about that a little later. For our toppings now, I got strawberries because guess what? They're in season right now, right?
Yes.
So if you do not know, go to your local farmer's market and pick up some local strawberries. Now this is I'm going to need some help with, because my genius idea said, oh, Rebekah, let's chop these up. Well, I wasn't thinking chop, right? I was thinking that I could do it really simple and put them in a bag and hit them with like a meat cleat. No. Don't do almonds like that. Like I could do pecans at home like that.
Oh yeah, because
pecans are very
softer.
soft.
Yeah.
Almonds are not a soft nut.
No.
So after I miserably failed several times with that, I end up getting a knife and a cutting board and chopping them up like old school that way.
Yeah.
So is there any other way that you can suggest to get those almonds chopped up quickly?
A blender or another chopper tool in your kitchen, you can use those. Like if you have a blender, I mean, you can do it in a matter of seconds.
Okay, all right.
So.
Oh, I didn't have one on hand, so.
Well,
and I didn't want to dirty one up because I was like, I don't
you have
need
to
a
wash
lot.
it.
Yeah. So the least amount of dishes is what I'm going to go with.
Understand.
So anyway, so let's go ahead and get into this recipe.
All right.
So I've got build your own salad, and I've got some things because I wanted to maybe do a little bit of demonstrations for our audience about lettuce and cucumbers, and you may have some extra ways. And we just hand sanitize our hands, so they're nice and clean. All right. And one other thing about the importance of this, like I noticed like the spinach was high in iron, potassium, and calcium.
Yes.
So that was a superfood because it had other things, like it's got iceberg lettuce. I'm not a fan of iceberg lettuce.
No, I'm not a really big fan of iceberg lettuce. I really like spinach. Baby spinach tends to be a little sweeter, especially for salads versus just regular spinach. Because the bigger it gets, the more bitter tendency it has to pick up.
Right,
So.
right. So our recipe actually called to choose 2 different types of base or lettuces, leafy lettuces. So you could choose iceberg lettuce was one, that was my favorite. Spinach, and I did baby spinach instead of the large one because sometimes when I'm eating the large spinach, I just have to shove a whole lot in my mouth and I don't like that either.
Yeah.
So you could do romaine, arugula, Bibb lettuce, or even mixed greens for this salad. Anything you have on hand will work. So one thing I wanted you to talk about too is about cutting lettuce.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I learned a really cool trick in one of our FNIP trainings by you about lettuce. So can you talk to the audience about it?
Yes. When you are preparing lettuce and you want to, put it in smaller pieces, you don't want to cut it with a sharp knife because when you do, it kind of seals the edges and makes it wilt faster. But if you cut it with something like a lettuce knife or just tear it apart, it doesn't seal that edge and make it wilt faster. So it makes your lettuce a little bit better. You can keep the stalk in there. You can cut it off. It's really just whatever is your taste preference. And these lettuce knives are really good for cutting things like brownies too. I mean, I know that's not salad, but just
That is way opposite from salad.
just a tip for your lettuce knife if you want to have another use for it.
Well, let me
Besides
tell you a
lettuce.
healthy use that I also have for this lettuce knife. So these lettuce knives are really cool because I also use them in culinary skills that I teach in my youth camps.
Yes.
They are, let me borrow it just a second, but they are like not going to get cut on this.
Yeah.
And so we cut all kinds of types of vegetables. We cut cucumbers, we cut tomatoes, we cut, because they can sit there and they can saw. And I would definitely not let my youth loose with something like a chef's knife.
No.
But they can saw through it and it gives them enough, and they can use that claw method that they're supposed to use when they're using those cutting skills.
Right.
So, speaking of that claw method, when I was learning that, I always was the educator that got in trouble for not clawing.
Yeah, it's really hard to do it if you're not accustomed to doing it. And I let my 2-year-old cut up vegetables. I mean, so you can let children that are really young help in the kitchen. And honestly, if they are helping in the kitchen to help prepare dishes and meals, they're often a lot more likely to taste it and try it if they're helping.
That is true. I have to say, my daughter and I cut up things, and right now she's 4, just turned 4, and she helped me cut up, what was it, squash and zucchini, and she was eating it raw as we were cutting it as well.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. So one thing I want to tell you, our audience, and just in case you don't know, if you have a slick surface while you're cutting that, and you have your cutting board, if you put a dishcloth underneath your cutting board, that is going to prevent it from slipping back and forth. That way you get a really good connection, and you also don't have to worry about safety or cutting yourself because the cutting board has slipped or moved. So that's another, just a useful tip, especially when you're cutting things. And I have cut them both ways without under there, and it's just so much safer to have that security under there. So that's why I put those under there. So while you're cutting that up, and all of that will need to be cut up because I went ahead and pre-measured that.
Okay.
The cucumbers, now I don't typically, when I have my cucumbers, I don't peel them because I like to make sure that I get all those extra nutrients that are in those peelings on my cucumber. So you're just going to cut up, and this recipe actually calls for choose 3 vegetables. I did 4 because I'm like a vegetable maniac. So I did, I know, right? So I did carrots, I did snow peas, tomatoes, and the cucumber. So what you're going to do, and you're going to just kind of claw like that, and I'm not sure if you guys can see over here. I'll just kind of move some things around maybe, or we can get a good shot of this and hope and pray that I'm doing it right.
Oh, yeah.
It's how I teach my children. So you will just want to claw that, and then you're just going to take that chef's knife and you're going to go in and out. I'm not the most skilled person at this, But it is one of those learned habits, or you have to unlearn. So if you've been cutting a certain way, you have to unlearn things. And another cool thing, let's say you're cutting potatoes. One cool thing is you always want to make something to set it on, make a base for it. So you'll just, like, you have a base, and then you could cut your potatoes up if you were doing like oven fries or something. So, just one example. Or you could cut your cucumber in half and make a base. So.
And another thing I want to mention, like if you want to make like smaller pieces of lettuce, so you don't have like really big pieces of lettuce, I mean, you can like fold your lettuce leaf over and then cut it much smaller in strips. So I guess that's considered julienne.
Yes.
So it's a little easier to eat, so you don't have a big mouthful of lettuce coming out of your mouth when you're trying to take a polite bite.
Yeah, I've not mastered, you know, when you look at these chef shows and they just go down the line and just cut really easily. Yeah, I've not mastered that technique yet.
Well, the more practice you get, the quicker you can become, and they've had lots and lots and lots of practice.
True. So, I'm going to go ahead and add our baby spinach to our salad.
All right.
So, and everything's been clean, taken care of. We'll go ahead and add our carrots. Let's move these out. So, I mean, it looks really pretty. It looks very colorful.
Yeah.
As I'm adding things in.
So you're eating your rainbow today.
Yes, yes. And as you know, I just have vegetables for this particular salad. But let's say you were trying to make sure that you incorporated all of your food groups in there. Well, I'm sorry, I lied. I have fruit too for a topping. I do have fruit. So I have fruit and vegetables, and I have a protein because I brought those those wild almonds that I didn't know how to cut yesterday, and I was trying to figure out how to. I'm telling you, I was wailing in the kitchen in there. I was surprised y'all didn't hear me when we were teaching classes. But yeah, it just didn't work, and so cut them with a knife, chop them like that for the nuts.
Blender.
Yeah. Or put them in the blender if you don't mind washing extra dishes. So I'm going to start tossing this a little bit.
It's beautiful.
It is. It's very colorful. Okay. Just put that extra in there. And so when you do the salad, you can top it with, and I chopped some strawberries, but I'm sure there's a way, you have a way, and I've seen you do it when you've cut a strawberry and you kind of make it look really pretty, like for a topping where you kind of slice it.
You don't cut it all the way up, but you do slice it, and then that way you can fan it.
Yes, do that. So we can
Maybe
show
I can
that.
do that with this knife.
Do you need this one?
That might work better. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, you got it? Got it fanned out?
Not completely. I'm trying not to cut myself here.
All right, perfect.
So yeah, you can kind of
Can you fan it out? I love it, I love it. Stick it on there. All right, guys, audience, I just want to say thank you for joining us today for Spotlight North Carolina Cooperative Extension. This is a way that you can create your own salad, create your own ways of making salads. Even if you want to make a hearty salad, you could do something like add beans to it.
Oh yeah.
I love to add beans to my salad. If you're allergic to any nuts or seeds, you could do beans. Chickpeas. Those are also good options for our salads. So if you guys are interested in North Carolina Cooperative Extension and getting in touch with cooking demonstrations, cooking classes, you can contact FNIP, you can contact FCS. Our number out at Columbus County is 910-640-6605, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.